All right, the Water Commission is called to order this evening, July 20th. We have here, Walt Baker Chair, Donnie Hampshire Commissioner, Water Commissioner, Mac McCartney, Water Commissioner, Deb Kelly, our Financial Officer, and then Colin
Hey,
Scott.
Deb, are we
Hey
waiting?
guys, it's David.
Can we hear? I can't hear anybody.
Hi guys.
Yeah.
Hi. Who's that? Who's that?
Oh, David.
Oh, David. Hi, David.
Okay, so, yeah, Colin, all the, transcription is picking up. Maybe is your volume up?
I'm on audio only through a telephone call.
I
Thank
can hear David fine. I just can't hear anybody in the room except you.
Okay, well, we got the microphone going down here. You're gonna have to speak up a little bit, I guess.
We'll try to speak clearly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And David Gillette is also here on the Zoom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Do you think I need to read this right?
Just the first paragraph.
Until further notice, the Corporation of Harpers Ferry governing and deliberative bodies will hold its meetings and or hearings virtually via Zoom webinar.
I'm gonna step away for about 30 seconds.
Okay, which provides public participation.
You guys hear me? This is Chris.
Yes.
I can hear you.
And a public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda.
Okay. I'm gonna step away for 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm continuing my film.
So alternatively, the public may watch YouTube video live stream or listen by telephone. These options comply with the West Virginia Open Governmental Meetings Act. Okay, so first we have the agenda. Is are there any changes to the agenda that anyone wants to make? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Hello?
Well, we need to have a commissioner move, to make a motion for the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Okay. Can I'll make a motion, shall we approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor that we approve the agenda as it stands?
Hi.
Remote. Okay, so remarks from the chairperson. I just wanted to bring you up to date on some things. The surveys, these have been coming in. We have probably got about 300 out of over 800 now. That have come in. I see that one asked for someone to contact him, so we'll be trying to do that too. Contacts anyone who asks for help and how to fill it out. As far as the Elk Run Main project. So actually that's later in the agenda, so we'll talk about that. That's updating that. I would like to just say that it's 6 months until January 1st when we have elections for officers in the Water Commission, and I plan not to be chair. So I would like everyone else to think about running for chair. And it's a good thing to do. I would help you do it because it's the first time you do this, but it helps you get more involved. And I would I just want to just put that out there, is that I'd like someone else to be
Oh,
chair.
you mean January 1st of 2023?
Yes, exactly. January 1st. Not January 1st, but the January meeting, we would have elections. The
And
January,
we're still looking for the two remaining members to have a full house, so to speak, in terms of commissioners.
it would be nice to have more commissioners on, yes, it would. And anyone interested should apply to the town council. Anybody you know who might be interested, we would like to have more. Let's see. I think the other things I will talk about are already on the agenda. So that's about all. The minutes, I sent out the minutes. Actually, David did a lovely job on the May 18th minutes. He sent it out last time, but it was right before our meeting. So I sent it out again. And the June 15th meetings have not been done yet. But is there any comments or corrections on the May 18th minutes?
Can I come?
Yes.
I believe that everything that regarding the budget revision 2 for 22 and 23, the comments probably are as I spoke them, so that's not a matter of whether it was accurate or not, but I may have misspoke about the expense highlights of new meters, where it talks about meters for 2 apartment complexes. It might just be the money, it might just be enough for 1, but I just wanted to point that out. It says it very specifically, including 2 apartment communities, and that may be what I said, but I may have misspoke. So it might just be enough for 1.
So is that under expenses highlights?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably, I went back and looked at my notes that I read from, and I think what he wrote is probably what I said, but I think I may have misrepresented it. I just want to.
So how would that be corrected then?
Well,
I have it in front of me.
that I would just make it, that it's, including 1 of 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we would take out the word 2 and put the word 1. One.
1, you said 1,
Two.
1 of, yeah.
Apartment
Yeah.
communities. 1 of the 2. So, any other corrections? Is there a motion to approve the minutes for May 18th to 2022 as amended?
Second.
Just thanks.
Yeah. So moved. And any discussion? All right, all in favor? Okay,
Quick
know-
question, quick question. Can you still see me?
Yes.
yes,
Okay, good. That's all I needed.
okay. That takes care of the minutes. Go back to the agenda.
No, Angie's not feeling well, but she is gonna try to.
Angie would give her report now, but she's not here, so let's move on, but if she comes in, we can have it later.
I can tell you that, with the ACH billing, I can let you know that that is moving along really well. We had, we pulled live data and made actual payments actually occurred as they were supposed to in the different various categories. So we're gonna have another layer of adding on some people, and then she plans to start promoting it. So, so the whole community can follow it. So very excited about that.
Right, so once that gets going, we might be. Angie might have a lot less work to do, right? Because does the ACH automatically get posted in Kuzi so that
Yeah.
she does not have to do any posting?
Well, it's, yeah, I believe that's true. I believe it automatically posts. She doesn't have to individually because it comes in as a batch. I think that's the case. And it just happens once a month. It's not like it's happening every day. So the more people that sign up for it, the more transactions would occur on that single day and single posting. So that would reduce data entry.
Okay, good. Well, Chris, would you like to give your report?
Yes, I would. Let me start with an excuse on one thing. I would have had more involved, but Paul has now officially come into the plant. And he comes by the name of Jim, and he has been taking up a lot of my time. And now we also have the engineer in there as well. So and I'm reading meters at the same time. So let's start out with that. First off, we are reading meters. They are on schedule. Even though we're short one man, right now. Let me stop with the us. Ryan is going for his class 1 operator's license. He's taking that at the Berkeley County Sewer Service District in Martinsburg. And he will be, the test date is Friday. What they do is they have classes all week, and then they give you a test at the end. And after that, it probably takes about 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get the test results back. He still doesn't have enough hours yet because he didn't start until January of this year. But he'll have his, hopefully he'll pass his test and at least have that out of the way. And when we have the hours, which is 2,000 hours he needs to accumulate, which is basically 1 year, he'll be able to apply for an operator's license. And anyway, after that, Sean is going for his class 2 operator's license in Evans, West Virginia. And this is very important because he does have the hours to become a class 2 operator, which means we would have a 3rd operator if he does pass. I mean, I have to submit the paperwork and there's some, so all in all, if he passes, you're still talking about 2 months out, 3 months out, 2 months. Let's just say 2 months to be on the safe side after that. Give or take. So that, and then of course, training. Like we all are going to have training on the Paul system, because it's completely different than anything I've experienced. And it's I can't wait to show you, because it's the amount of data that it's providing and information, instruments and information that I'm able to monitor my water with more accurately is phenomenal. And just one sheer factor alone, but before we had to shut the plant on and off every 40 minutes to an hour. Now we don't have to we can run continuously for 6 to 7 hours. And as of, I'm told this Monday, we'll never have to shut it off again, except when we go home, of course. Which just means that we can produce more water. And that's great news. We're also using less chlorine, which I guess you guys will be happy about in your water. I'm dropping it a considerable amount. I was keeping it at a 1.5 to a 1.7. I'm now keeping it at at a 1.2 to a 1.1. And that's given me, when I go out and get grab samples, which is I take a random sample throughout the system, we're averaging between a 0.7 and a 1.0. We used to average a 1.5 throughout the system. So your chlorine taste and odors should drastically be different. Matter of fact, you should be noticing that now. So the water loss for the month of June was 14.16%. This is the lowest percentage I have ever recorded since I became superintendent. We also had the highest sold water in the last 5 years. I believe some of the results come from the recent replacement of broken meters that Sean and Ryan, with some assistance from Ron Smoot. Also, we have fixed all of the known water leaks, and my team continues to leak detect. Andy has contributed a great deal in the zero usage and broken meter project by finding them and making spreadsheets to keep track of all future zero usage meters. Filter 2 has been removed. So this means, if you're not familiar with it, but I think everybody is by now, we are running at 50% capacity. So we are making the most water that we've made all year. So we're busy, to say the least. And it's hot. It's 90 degrees, so people are using water. But the good news is on that is our percentage of water loss is low. So all the water's being accounted for. So we're being paid for this water usage. So that's good news. Or the water system, or the water system is being paid for, or Harpers Ferry Water Works is. Let's see, because we are able to run less, because of this, we are able to run less hours. We are able to produce more water than previously calculated. So I'm sorry, I changed the letters there. I apologize. But we're able to run. We thought we were only going to be able to make between 150 to 175,000 gallons of water. Well, it turns out that we're able to make, 150 gallons per minute to 175 gallons per minute. Which was good, but we're actually making 288 gallons per minute, to be exact. So that was a big game changer. We work roughly, it's around 12 o'clock. We still have some overtime that a lot of it was contributed to major leaks on customer side. One in particular was the Quality Inn had an issue that was resolved quickly after we found it. Let's see. Our water plant can now be run from the computer for the most parts, allowing me to make adjustments to the equipment that has increased our run times by 600%. Again, it's doing more than that. And as of next week, we're really going to take a big turn. I'm told we're going to be fully automated. So basically all I do is punch in how much water I want in my tanks, and it will do so. So I'm really looking forward to that. basically, it's gonna free up a lot of operator time. And allow more projects to be, done in the future. So, I have a lot of plans for all of us and looking forward to that. And does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Chris, the low water loss, do you expect that to go down even further as once the construction's complete, or is that kind of a new baseline or low point,
I have,
baseline or ceiling?
I really can't answer that. It's fluctuated so much. You know, the month before that, we were at 35%. I sent you guys all out a water loss report. You did get that, right?
Yes.
Okay. But it's, and I would, I'm gonna, the first full month of using the new meter is gonna be next month. So that's gonna be the true test of if I've been monitoring the water loss closely, because we believe that the old meter, the readings were off due to the meter was too close to the water tanks. The design was flawed. At least that's what the engineer was saying. So the new meter is supposed to be more accurate. It goes down to the thousands. So we're gonna be really fine tuned here, and I'll be able to give you better answers next month.
Okay.
Chris,
Thanks.
you're talking about the new meter. The new meter will measure the amount of processed water.
Yes,
So that'll give us a number that we can trust instead of having to use the old meter, which is inaccurate, and then you always adjusted it. And we
yes,
hopefully adjusted it correctly, right?
yes,
Now we're getting a real true reading when we
yes.
install the new meter, which will give us one number for all processed water, right?
That is correct. It's a magnet meter. It's spaced completely way away from the pumps, so there's no turbulence possibility, and there's a large straight piece of pipe on both sides of the meter, so there's no turbulence that could interfere with the reading.
Okay. And I just have one other question. You mentioned that you used to have to shut off the plant every 40 minutes.
Yeah,
And-
well, let me explain that. I'd have to turn off the high service pump that pumps the water to the town, and allow the clear well to fill back up, because our clear well was only 20,000 gallons of water. It only held 20,000 gallons of water. The new clear well, we found out holds 123,000 gallons of water. So it holds, 5 times more water, allowing for longer run times, and the other main reason that I don't have to use as much chlorine is because I have better contact time, or longer contact time. Contact time is the amount of time that the water has contact with the chlorine gas, to kill off all the known bacteria and bugs that we have out there. But the longer the contact time, the better. And the reason, for example, the two that we measure, that we do a log removal, and that's how we base how much chlorine gas that we put into the system, is called the Giardia cryptosporidium log removal. And we need to keep a log removal above a 3.0, And with the new system, we're keeping it at a 5.27, and we've eliminated the chlorination. We no longer need pre-chlorination. The cryptosporidium and the giardia are really tough bugs. They have a shell around them, and it's harder for the chlorine to penetrate them. So it takes longer for it to kill the bug. That's why you need at least a half an hour, and we're getting more like an hour of contact time.
But is it true that the new filter, the membrane filter, will actually filter out, these bugs can't get through that filter, right?
Yes, so we'll be able to, we're gonna have really clean water is what it comes down to.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions? Okay, thank you very much. I mentioned it before the meeting that tomorrow morning, there's a water progress meeting here in this room at Town Hall at 9 o'clock, if anyone would like to come.
Oh, it's a progress meeting tomorrow?
Yes, 9 o'clock tomorrow.
I-
The water distribution center, the water distribution system meeting is at 1:30 tomorrow with Region 9.
Okay, thank you. It just slipped my, I was busy doing other things. I'm sorry.
By the way, are you, Chris, when you read the meters, the handhold or recording it in the books?
We're recording it in the books.
Just wondered, that's too
Yeah.
bad.
And let me tell you, it's hot out there. I only had to read meters one day and I'm already crying like a baby. Poor Sean's been reading all week, but so what we're doing is we're rotating the operators out there while Ryan's away.
Okay. Well, appreciate
Debbie,
that.
Hello?
Debbie,
Yes.
can someone put me on mute? I'm on this
Sure.
meeting in a bit of a menagerie of sorts.
Okay. There you go. You'll have to unmute when you want to talk.
I don't know how to let us know. You can unmute him.
I think I should be able to unmute myself now.
Okay. So the next thing is the financials from Deb.
Okay, so the financials that you have are for the end of May, which is 91.7% of our fiscal year. The budgeted numbers do not reflect the revision that you approved in May. You won't actually see those until we look at the June numbers, which will be next month. So from this report, your actual income does not include the $97,228 on line 481, which is the soft cost reimbursement, or the ARPA money funding on line 421A of $62,228. So just need to use those. So making an adjustment for those items, our revenue of $753,515 represents 76% of the budgeted revenue. Line 461, customer billings, is at 76.4%, still lower than our target. So
Debbie, which one are you on? Are you on the detailed list, or are you on the
budget
Payment.
versus actual.
payment extension?
Budget versus actual.
So
The financials, it says Corporation of Harper Spray, profit and loss, budget versus actual.
Okay,
Got
thank
it?
you.
Okay. So that number we've been keeping an eye on, and, it's important to understand that was developed with the formulation when we made the price change in December of 2020, based on usage in December of 2020. And then when we got into 2021 and finished up the fiscal year, we were right on target. And so we felt confident about extrapolating that over this fiscal year. So we feel like that's off a little bit, and we're not 100% sure why. When you approve the budget revision for fiscal 22, which you will see in your budget numbers next month, we reduced that revenue number by 5%. If you compare the revenue number that you have as actual for May to what the June number is going to be projected at for the whole year, you're then at about 88%. So we wanted to see more like 90%. So we're getting closer, but we're not quite there. We're still going to look at that further. We examined it in a general sense by looking at revenues over the past 2 years in the various categories of revenue streams that we have, and we did not see any, very strange aberrations that gave us pause. So now I'll be working with Cox Holiday and doing some further, more detailed study of, and probably going back further just to look at trends. And we may end up having to revise our target number. That might be part of the problem. If you think about what happened from 2020 until now, we had COVID, residents stayed home, businesses shut down, we had price increase. So then all that kind of has been flipping around since the beginning of 2021 and all the way up until now. Things are moving around. So we just may have missed the mark a little bit, but we'll also try to make sure that there's no areas that are of concern before we make an adjustment.
Are you happy with it? Or
Well, I'd like to see it better, or I certainly wouldn't be looking at going back and looking at more data if I was happy. We need to be more precise, because that is the key number in being able to predict what our operating costs are and can be. So,
Okay.
I wonder about the amount of sold water. So our accountant has a program, and there's a number he must use for how many gallons that are sold at the new rate in order to come up with the receipts.
well, actually, the way that we come up with the amount of sold water is that we run the accounts receivable report out of Kuzi that says this is how much water you sold. And that's in dollars.
But you said the budget was made on a
formulation,
a computer program or an Excel file that predicted what the receipts would be.
based on the usage of the calendar year of 2020. And also using then,
So, I mean, the question is, what figure did the accountant use for their sold water? And how does that compare to how much was actually sold?
well, it's a lot of detail, and I'd be happy to explain it to you, but I worked and developed that Excel formula with Charlie, and I just don't have it in here, but I'd be happy to review it with you.
Well, no, I'm just making a suggestion that might be something to look at. Is the amount, what amount of sold water that program had to put in order to come up with its estimate versus what actually turned out to be. A year later, we found out how much was sold.
Right, and then when we chose to examine detail in April, the first thing we did was examine that. We wanted to make sure that we felt that it was accurate.
Good. But did you compare the amount of sold water? I mean, that's the real question is.
Okay, I just know the answer quickly.
I just wonder what the answer there is, because that's probably gonna tell us as you said, the pandemic, maybe usage went down. That would be nice. That would be interesting to know if the reason for this is because people actually use less water. I think we could find that.
Can I ask one question? How in dollars, how much, you said 2%, right?
No,
Um,
12%.
how much is it in dollars? Do we have that?
I said 12%, not 2%.
Oh, I thought you said 2%.
And so you're talking about about $100,000.
How much?
100,000.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize. I thought you said 2%. That's why I couldn't figure out why you weren't happy with that.
We'd be having a discussion if it was 2%.
Right?
Yeah, we'd be happy.
Well, we'll get it. We
Any
got to
other
find it.
financial?
We got to make it. I think with the zero usages, we keep on track with them and fine tuning them more and more and making sure that the ones when they do die are replaced immediately. And I'll have a meeting with my guys about that. Maybe we can help out on our end some too, as
Well,
far as revenue.
The implications of that, are gonna take time. I mean, we just only in the last month got to the point where we felt like all the meters, there were no dead meters like that. So it's gonna take time to know what the impact of that is,
Yeah.
And just, we're still changing a lot. The planet's changing. There's just a lot going on. So anyway.
Right.
We're doing our best to come up with a good chart and make sure
Well,
that we identify any issues. So any other questions regarding the financials?
I have to say, I didn't get enough time to really review them, but I appreciate your making them. I'm going to go over them some more this week. I might have some questions later for you.
And they're the same ones, of course, that were presented to council. Yeah.
So, any other questions for Deb?
No, not me.
All right, the lead and copper. Okay, I sent out these two proposals for, one was from 120 Water to collect 20 samples and to put them into a database. When I talked to the representative whose name was Joe Richland, I think. This is a very fancy software that would track those samples from the time they are turned in. You always know where they are. I mean, not literally GPS, but just did it get collected? Is it at the lab, and etc. And then displaying the results of testing for lead and copper. And the other proposal was just from Pace Lab, Pace Lab is the lab we usually use for our testing of water, for all kinds of testing. And so the 120 Water was something like $7,000, and the Pace Lab is $550, something like that. And that's because we would do the legwork. If we use Pace Labs, we have to do some of the legwork.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be clear about something. If you're planning on doing this, and you have school coming up too as well, and this looks like it's gonna run into into your school time. I don't, if 120 can do this and take away the work from me, what?
I'm not teaching this year.
Oh, okay. Well, then,
Still, I'm interested in what you have to say.
okay. Well, I'm just saying, I didn't realize, I mean, I guess I did know that they were gonna take up my time, but I'm gonna have to be fully invested in Paul from now on. I've been able to do some things, but, you know, I'll get my lab works done and a few things, but as far as anything else, they're taking up my time, man, and they want my attention. I've been told already that, I no longer am the chief operator of the plant for right now, that they are taking over is what they told me. So,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
I'm in class right now.
Who is taking over the plant?
Paul, he was joking, but he was just telling me that I need to be brainwashed and he's gonna be the guy that does it, because everything that I know now is gonna be completely different. And it's taken up a lot of my time. So if you're planning on doing this, don't, I can't provide the time that, you know what I'm saying? I just can't. And if 120 can do it and without my help, then I'm gonna have to go with 120.
Thank you, Chris. I mean, that's very important, and I do believe you that this is in order to carry on with things like reading meters and leaks, in which you also have to keep up with all this stuff.
Yes.
This system, I totally get it. So let me describe what I think is what is involved with collecting these 20 samples. So how much work is it? Now I'm going to describe what I think, and please, at the end of it, please jump in and tell me if I left out something. So apparently we have been doing 10 samples every 3 years. And so what's involved with that? And so now we have to do 20 samples. So that's one thing, is that we do 20 samples instead of 10, but we have been doing 10 samples. So all the things we did for 10 samples, we now have to do for 20 samples. And so PACE provides the bottles, which are 1 liter bottles. We mark them with a code that matches an address on the list, but it's basically only a code on the bottle. We check with the 20 people first. Well, wait, let's back up. First of all, we have to get 20 people to agree to do the sample, because they can collect the sample and they put it out for us to collect. Okay, so that's the first thing, is that we have to do that. I believe that has to be done anyway. We have to supply those 20 people. And,
Yes.
so
Yes, we do, regardless.
we have to do that anyway, whichever proposal we chose, we would have to find those 20 people. So once we have the 20 people who have agreed, we contact them about a date in which they would collect this water, and they have to do it in a faucet that has not been used for like 8 hours. And it's the first draw of the day. So they do it the very first thing. They put the liter bottle under the faucet and they collect the water and put the top on. And then they're going to put it out for us to collect. And it's the very first draw. And instructions, they get instructions on how to do it. Then we collect those 20 samples. And according to Chris,
This is where it gets tricky. Can I take over for a second?
sure. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so when the problem with PACE, or it's just a difficult situation with PACE, is they only come into Martinsburg. That's where we meet them at Sheets by the Hardys and Martinsburg on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have to be there no later than 10 a.m. to and 10 a.m. Tuesday, 10 a.m. Thursday. You're gonna have to sign a release form for each one. Each test will have its own separate person release. That's the only way you're gonna be able to keep track of the samples, is each one's gonna have its own name. So, or address, basically, on the custody release form. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because you're gonna have to time it. You're gonna, if you want to do it on a Thursday, you're probably gonna have to start on Monday, getting the samples or contacting the people. By Tuesday, getting the samples to them. By Wednesday, they should have them out by their doorstep, and you should be able to pack them all. You'll have containers, and you'll be able to pack them all in ice, and you'll have to keep them stored at your house or at the plant, however you want to do it. And then Thursday morning, drop them off, and you'll have to sign all the relinquish forms, all the chain of custody forms. So there's a timing factor involved too as well. There's some work. That's the part I don't want to get involved in.
I think it's actually good to take them to Martinsburg to the Sheets, because then we're not paying a shipping charge for these 21-liter bottles.
Oh, most definitely. You're only paying gas, which is good.
So then it would be off our hands at that point. It's delivered, we get a report back. And the report is based on the code that's on the bottle, and we know which code. And I asked Alan, do the customer, so we have to give the result back to the customer, to that customer, but we also have the results that we report in summary on the next consumer confidence report. And of course, the report goes to the county as well. So I asked Alan, do we have to give, what is the form we have to give to the customer about his results? Does it have to come straight from PACE? And
I
he said,
think so. I think that's the result. I think the test results are straight from PACE.
well, he told me that there is a special form that's filled out for the
Oh,
customer,
okay.
and that he would help us do it. So I think that if we get cooperation, I think this could be done. But I would like to hear what you guys think about what I described.
Or we could go with 120 water and wouldn't have to do anything. That's the options, except it costs us more money.
Yeah, that's a possibility, although when I was talking to Joe today, he thought we might have missed the window for it, but I don't think so, because I think that was he thinks that we've been told you have to collect the sample by the end of September, but I think we're collecting that sample the first week of October. I think that's when we need it. And then that's okay with Alan. So Alan Marching being the West Virginia Jefferson County's Health Department person. So I'd like to know what you guys think. I mean, did you used to collect samples and send them in for this?
Yeah, a long time ago, but is it mandatory now?
Yes.
Yes.
Years. And now this is the year.
And it's basically done the same way. I'm sure. The chain of custody, the same thing as far as filling them out.
So the chain of custody is a form that anyone who handles that sample would have to sign the form that they have.
Yes,
That's what chain of custody is.
whoever's filling out the form and handing over the samples.
Well, I guess I am willing to do a lot of legwork. I would ask you guys to help me do this. Actually, I forgot my list, but But I have it, from the Jefferson County Assessor's Office. They sent a list of 27 residences in Bolivar and Harpers Ferry that had a building permit or that were built in the years 82 to 86. And that's sort of the target years.
Okay, what is now the time to mention that we also need to fill out the form to give Mansion or Alan, what, 30 days? He needs 30 days, and we need to make a map that
You know,
locates every single.
That's about the service lines. Right, and I know that,
And we have a target, we have a date on that. I mean, that's the thing I don't want to miss. I don't want to get a violation. If we get a violation, we have to send out a notice to every single customer that we screwed up or we missed our date.
Chris, I'm gonna talk about the service line map in a minute. But
Okay,
as far as these samples go. So Alan has said, these 27 people, you know, there's basically, they say, try to get everybody from what's called tier 1 first, and tier 2 second, and tier 3. If you can't, then you can go to the general population. So tier 1 is residences built between 82 and 86 that have lead silvery in there with their copper pipes. Well, nobody says, see, on the survey, people say I have copper pipes, but nobody says they have lead silvery. They say, I don't know to that question, because how would they know? Unless they actually owned it at the time. So I asked Alan about that. So, you know, people are saying, I don't know. So it's not technically tier 1 since we don't know. And he said, well, we assume that it could be. If they say, I don't know, that's assumed it could be lead silvery. And so we consider it a tier 1. So yes, so we do want to get our 20 people from this list of 27. And so this is going to involve, now this is just to make the sampling plan that we have to submit to Alan 30 days ahead of when we sample. And so basically we can submit it to him by the end of August. We have a whole month, actually 5 or 6 weeks to come up with 20 people. So to meet people, explain to them, I have a flyer I put in. I sent out also about what we could leave with them. The benefit to them is that they get test results on their water. And so we can get, some people might want to do that just because they look at those personal results for their own water. And so that's basically, we would do that. We would talk to them, explain it to them. If they want to sign up, we sign them up. If they want to think about it, we leave the flyer. How does this sound to you? You know, I just need to know from you, what does it sound like? Way too much trouble? What do you think?
I'll help if you need to know. That's no problem.
What do you
I
think?
don't, when I come to these meetings, I'm like figure out stuff. I don't know anything about what.
We're all learning. We're
Yeah.
all learning.
And every time, it's a learning process for me, and I really appreciate it. I was just wondering about the steps involved, like, it's a benefit to everybody that this is done.
No,
And
state,
it seems like it's the step of giving each person that's part of it. It's another step that makes it more. It adds more steps to something. From what benefit? I mean, other than an individual.
well, we're required to do this testing of lead and copper. Is David Gilliland still on?
Because that was.
Maybe we
She
should
dropped off, but I think this is.
Maybe we
what
should
we're
unmute
doing.
him so that he can be part of this.
Last one.
He dropped
Oh,
off.
no,
okay.
it's,
And I think
it's
he's
silver
right.
solder. See, back in the day.
All right, can you
they
hear us, David?
Lead.
Yeah.
solder.
Yeah, I'm back on.
Oh, lead, I mean,
Lead.
the soldering.
But now they outlawed that. But there's still some around,
And that
and
could
that's what
be,
they're trying to find, is there any place in town that still has the lead solder in the copper fittings?
So now they're soldered with not lead.
Yeah, but
Or-
it doesn't have lead in the solder.
after 86, it is banned by the
Okay.
state of West Virginia. So, and I guess the first decision is, or the second decision, it's sort of all together here, is do you think we can handle this project? Do you understand what we have to do? We have to
The
get,
lead work.
we have to get the 20 people in the sampling plan to agree to it. And then, and when the time comes, we have to tell them, on this day, we're gonna collect the sample. Can you not use that faucet, you know, from some period on and fill this things first thing in the morning without, you gotta get the first draw and put it out on your porch. Someplace where it, by a certain time, on a certain day, it'll all happen on the same day. We'll pick it up, ice it over, keep it overnight, take it to Martinsburg. That's it. Then it's,
Like
I
it's,
don't know whether it's, other than providing lead work.
Well, then they're gonna send me the test results and let me tell you, it's, that's a challenge sometimes as far as getting results back. Because they're, the labs are swamped, all of them are swamped. And that's, so, but they always seem to get them in at the nick of time. I've had a couple times where they ran past their due date or they've let test results expire. But, you know, that's just part of the nature of the beast when you're overloaded. But it doesn't matter who you go to, they're all busy, you know? And that's a result. One of the results is, Reliance, a lab stepped out or is no longer a lab anymore. And they took a big void and a lot of people went over to Pace and other places. So,
David Gilliland, do you have any comment on what we're talking about?
huh?
I think
Oh.
we're talking about Pace versus One Water. That's more or less the discussion?
Yes.
I would be personally, I would be in favor of One Water just because of the thoroughness and one-stop shopping opportunity, and rather than creating extra work that may run into potential pitfalls, that it might be worth it to pay more for better, more comprehensive service.
And and you're right. I mean, they got the flyers that are really nice.
Chris, wait a minute, let me answer David. Did you see what the price was on the proposal from 120 Water?
It was wasn't it right around 7,000 or
7,600.
you said 5,600?
No, I'm saying it's $7,000 for 120 Water versus $600 for just the lab, sending in and getting the lab results back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still maybe feel the same way, just maybe paying more for better service and better value.
See, I'm in. I agree with that too.
Okay, wait a second. I'm sorry, Chris. So we're paying, I just want to make sure it's clear that we're paying like $6,500 extra money for them to do this. when we could do it ourselves. And also we did it ourselves all the previous years. We took care of this. Only we had 10 samples instead of 1. So it's not like this is some brand new thing that we've never done.
But it's different. It is different. We didn't have to do the mapping.
No, this isn't about the mapping. This is only about the sampling, the 20 samples.
Well, but you're also gonna be included, their cost was also for getting everything, it to Alan, the site plan.
That's possible too, that they were gonna do the sampling plan.
It's not possible. That's what he told me he was gonna do for that cost.
So we could give them the 27 people and they could figure out.
Yes.
Okay, well, I do want to hear from everybody and we need to take a vote on it. And I think we should, I just want it to be clear what all the issues are.
Yeah, I feel like with the water plant generating more revenue, a record number in the last 5 years this month, you know, maybe you use some of that extra income sort of philosophically to put right back into the system.
Okay, I'm sorry, David. I missed what you said. Would you say that again?
Like the income effect in economics, if you're making more money as a system with a more streamlined plan and better distribution, then perhaps you can anticipate being able to afford your cost on
Of course,
items
we're not
like
there
this.
yet.
So it's
We're not really
making a decision purely on cost, but also
we
how
might
you-
be making more money at some point, but it hasn't happened yet. And also, I haven't mentioned that the second part, and let me explain about the second part of the project, is about creating a database that tells what kind of pipes are in the service line, both the utility side and the customer side of the service line. And we have to have a whole database in which it's been identified what it is. And that's every single one. It's not a sample.
No, that's where we come in. I mean, I know we got legwork. That's where our guys are gonna have to go into the houses and dig up the meter crocks if necessary.
Well, I did speak with Joe about that today, about what is involved with that part. And so they make it, the end result of their work on that part would be to give us the database with, for every single location, we would know what kind of pipes is at that location, at the service line. And we would also have a color-coded map that would say the same thing. Basically, different colors for different types of pipes.
Yes.
And it's not GPS based, which I had been asking about before. It's not really like a GPS map, like digitized. But it does give the map that would color code what kind of pipes it is. And so it's not like for a sample, it's for every single one. So they have these kits they send out. What they do is they try to get the customer to do all the work. So they send out kits. It's got some sort of swab. They instruct the customer to swab the, like inside their house, the pipe that's coming in to swab it and then mark it on a card and then send that in, and then they test that for lead. So they're looking for, so in this way, they can state that this residence did not have lead in their pipes because of these card tests that they do. They always try to get the customer to do the legwork in order to save, the water utility from having to do it.
That's awesome.
And so that part is very, time intensive since it's every single one. And he said he would send me a proposal for it. And he sent this proposal, but in the proposal, I honestly, it did not say things like, map, this amount of money, and testing, the test kit, this amount of money. It didn't say that, and so it wasn't, it said some more like software, this, and
Well, we could have it broken down then, if we need
I
to.
think it's broken down more to understand from the proposal what each part pays for.
I'm sure he'd do that tomorrow. The guy's very, very helpful.
I think
Now-
it'll be, you know, in the proposal he sent was for 11,000. But we need to have some more conversation.
Far cheaper than we could do it if we were doing it ourselves. You know? I mean, if we had our guys out there having to dig this stuff and going from place to place, besides, we don't really have the manpower. And if they can get the customer, because they're giving us a package that the customer can fully understand, that's user friendly, that's much better than anything we could do.
Well, I think that we should have a company do this work because it is so extensive to document every single service line of our 800 to 900 locations.
I
And,
agree.
but
yeah.
we don't have that estimate yet, but we can assume it's going to be more than $10,000. It's just really not clear what it'll be at the end. And I did write to him that, and we'll have some more conversations and clarify that. But that is completely separate from the sampling part, which was the $7,000 bid. Okay, so you got to think of these two things as being separate. They're not the same.
No, but yeah, I fully understand that. I mean, I think we all do, don't we?
We're 10 weeks away now from the September 30th federal deadline, so I think
We don't have much
time is-
choice.
yeah. Expedience versus cost savings is.
We're on a schedule that we can manage, getting the sampling plan to Alan by the end of August. And then assuming that the one filter, the one membrane filter goes online at the end of August, 30 days later, we can arrange to take the samples. And also do it during the first week of October. And I checked with Alan and he agreed to this. So we are not going to be running into any deadline if we do this ourselves. But anyway, I want to we all have to, I appreciate all of your viewpoints, and we just really have to, is there any other questions? And we just need to vote on this and decide what we're going to do. We need to have a vote on, are we going to do this sampling through 120 water, or are we going to do it ourselves with legwork on the front end and collecting and sending it to Pace for a much lower price? But it does require work from us. And is there any other questions about what we're considering one way versus the other? Is there any other questions? Well, I'll make a motion and then we can vote on it and just vote what you think. That's what we're here for. We're each of us independent minded. That's what we needed here, is independent minded people who do what they think is best. So, but I'd like to make a motion that we take on the job of collecting samples, of making the sampling plan of 20 people for lead and copper sampling, and collect it and take it and intersect with Pace Labs to get that done, as well as fill out the forms afterwards with the results.
Yeah. And I would like to add, if everything, because I have to deal with labs all the time. And if it's never gone as simple as planned. Oh, I'm sorry.
Making a motion, you can't interrupt her like that.
Okay, sorry then.
Okay, that's my motion.
I couldn't hear you. I apologize.
That's okay. Does anybody want to second the motion?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Any questions or discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor of the motion?
Can you roll call it?
Only the commission can vote. I'm sorry, what did you
He's
say?
asking for a roll call. He wants to hear
Oh.
yay or yay.
Okay,
So,
yes.
you want me to do that for you? Laurel, how do you vote?
Yes,
Don,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
David,
Nay.
okay, the motion carries. All right, well, I will keep up with that. I will let you know. I think like if we visit houses, I think two of us should always go at a time. But we have till the end of August to get that sample. And it's very nice that you have done this before.
Oh, it's
Because
been a long time.
I know, but still, your expertise and
Hopefully it'll be
experience.
like riding a bicycle.
Oh.
It's like riding a bike.
And as for the second part of this, which is much more detailed and intricate, and I will keep you informed of what I learn about it and how much that when we get a proposal that I can understand better, I think, I will definitely pass it on.
Just remember the time, the clock is ticking. We have only to 2024. So the longer we wait on that one,
That's exactly right, because as soon as that's exactly right. There's no reason to wait on that, on the service lines. And so as soon as we can decide on that point, we need to get it started. That's exactly right. But the good thing is that they would take our surveys and analyze them in catalog.
okay, good.
We can begin this over, these 300 surveys right here that we've gotten, and we keep getting more.
That's awesome. I think that was a good turnout.
Actually, not the survey, they would want a scanned copy of all the surveys to see, so. All right. Any other question about lead and copper? Okay, so, Elk Run 8-inch main project update. I don't have anything since the last, council meeting. Do you have any more?
well, I believe that, the contractor has obtained the additional bonding and information that he needed to get for Second Road with regard to departures. And so after the meeting tomorrow that we have on the water treatment plant, then we're going to have a brief kind of meeting and hopefully be able to schedule the pre-construction meeting for Elk Run, and then we'll really know. Yeah, but it sounds like that's starting to now pull together and I think that was our plan from the last meeting, that at this point now, we would hope that we'd be able to schedule a pre-construction meeting, so.
Okay.
Yep.
But we haven't signed,
Yeah.
we haven't signed it yet. Okay. All right, well, hopefully will be some good news tomorrow. I sent out the job description for the admin position, which is now called Public Works Administrator. And, that's a job that is going to be funded from both the town and the water. It starts as 20 hours a week, mainly working on water. That job description, if you looked at it, it was tremendous amount of work. It was no way a 20-hour a week person could do it all.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember everything that you have in there, I'm doing right now. And there was one thing that was troubling with that, but I like it. I'm not saying it, but it's really bothering me. I've worked very hard at being a superintendent, and you know, some things I've struggled at, and other things I've exceeded extremely well, in my opinion. And the results are there. I've earned the title superintendent, and I don't want that taken away from me.
Well, I'll pass that on. And I appreciate you saying that. I will pass it on. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's very important to me,
Um,
extremely important.
So at the next budget and finance meeting, which is Monday, we're going to talk about the advertisement, which will not have all of that stuff in it. It will, because it's starting really with water stuff and not the town stuff. And so we'll be talking about getting that advertisement. It's a much shorter and really concentrates on water duties and water utility.
You mean for publishing in newspapers and similar things?
Yes, so you know, does anyone have any suggestions about where to put this advertisement? That's always been a troubling point of what do we, you know, because it's expensive.
Journal, Observer, Spirit of Jefferson, Herald Mail, any far western Loudon papers, I would think. Some weekly Loudon papers.
You know, it's very, very expensive to even put it in one newspaper, right?
To have a paraphrase version and then a link shortened web link to it, like that has the full description.
Do you think that
You could have a 40 to 100 word overview and then a link at the end so that people could find it online or just type it out by hand because it's shortened and
yes.
links to a spot on the website.
I mean, that's certainly something to perhaps give us more exposure through print. However, Facebook advertising is great and that, and also there's Indeed and there's ZipRecruiter and things like that. I don't know the pricing on all of those, but that may also be helpful. And I mean, the world of employment is very electronic these days. So I know that some newspapers also have electronic, you know, whatever you advertise is also done electronically. But all the things that we've done recently, we've always done it on Facebook because that's completely free. Whether you want to go another level beyond that, somebody'd have to do a little research and look into the cost of that.
But I believe the Indeed reaches a lot of people also.
It does. I mean, and I don't know if it's become more.
It's an
What's it called?
Facebook, social media.
It's called Indeed. And we've used Indeed maybe a year, 18 months ago. And I don't know if it's gotten more sophisticated or not. Maybe it has. One of the challenges that we have, in fact, it was even longer than that. I'm going to say more like 2 or 3 years ago we used it. The challenge with that was that you got a huge swath that you called through and you maybe got like 1 or 2 that were hopeful. So there's a trade-off there, and it may have gotten more sophisticated, I don't know.
Okay, David, I'm definitely going to take your suggestion to the budget and finance meeting about writing a short advertisement with a link. And you liked Indeed, you felt like that was a good.
I've used that before with kids, you know, looking for jobs and it seemed to.
It's good. Mike, do you have
I've never heard of it.
any favorite places that you think is good to advertise or look for a job?
Other than Facebook.
Well, anything free, we should just do.
Yeah. Is there some other publication that would,
It
that
would be
would have
nice.
something to do with water where
With water, right.
someone's looking.
Point taken that, the, organization that I cannot remember the name of, that Tyler knows,
Rural Water Association.
we should definitely get the encouragement to them. Because that would be going directly to people involved in the water.
So if they have a nice letter, we could put it in there.
Right, and they have, I think they do it on their website. You know, yeah, so rural waters, whenever we advertise for any position, we always bring on, use them.
Okay. All right, and then other utilities, we could present, have a flyer, they could put up nearby utilities. And all right, I'll take all those suggestions, thank you. New business, testing or replacement of large meters in use in our water district. So this is just a general discussion, not for any action. Basically, starting a year ago, the Water Commission started talking about, we have some large meters that are places like the school and hotels and apartment complexes that might not be measuring as well as they could. And that if we replace them by meters that used a different technology that were far more accurate, that we would definitely make more money because they would actually count the usage in a better way because of different technology. And so one type is called it's a radio read meter, but that's not a radio read. Refers to how you read the meter, but it's also got this new technology. And maybe you could say something about that, Chris. And can you also talk about testing them? If you test a meter and it's not measuring correctly, what do you do then? Is it fixable?
Yeah, so the big meters can be recalibrated.
Okay.
So that basically that's what you do with that. Through ports that are attached to the meters now. There's like a cap that you open up and flush the water through. And then, like, for example, 2-inch meters, you have to pull the meters out and test, and it's gonna be it'd be quite the expense on testing, but need to do it. So
the question is, we would contract out testing it, is that
Yes.
right? And then they would come in, they would test it, and they would recalibrate it if it needs it.
correct.
Okay. It seems like we should find out how much that costs. Yeah. Because if we're losing money because it's not measuring well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, most of the meters that we do have are outdated anyway. So they're just going to be replaced.
The 2-inch meters,
2-inch meters we can do in-house. Yeah, the 2-inch meters would be tested where they actually pull them out and calibrate them. Not all of the 2-inch meters, but for example, the one at the Clarion Inn has been there for, well, I assume by the looks of it since the beginning. Donnie, when was the last time that you saw it replaced?
Yeah, it's been a long, long time, buddy. It's one of the older ones.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't have a leak detector indicator on it. It doesn't have anything. I'd be surprised.
That's the one
Wait.
down in the kitchen, right?
Yes, exactly. It's down in the basement next to the beer,
Right.
Okay,
next
so
to the kegs.
you're saying that you have the certification to test a 2-inch and recalibrate it. Is that right?
No, that I do not. I have the qualifications to test 1 inch and 3/4. To test in anything larger requires equipment and me to go to school. And
Contracting it out.
yeah, or opposed to contracting it out. Which I don't have the time at the moment to go to school.
Chris, we used to take them to Charlestown and they would run tests on them. Does Charlestown still have that capability?
I can find that out. I'm sure you're talking about the 2-inch meters. You're not talking about the 3 inch.
Just the bigger meters.
So you would take out the 3-inch meters?
Yeah, no, the 2-inch meters.
Yeah, the 2-inch meters you take out, but not the large ones that are in-house. I can't imagine any of those being
No,
taken out.
How did you test your 3-inch meters?
we were never tested.
They were never tested.
They were fairly new back then, so they really didn't even think about the testing and the accuracy of them then. But it's been a long time.
Yeah. So the possibility of them not, I mean, you don't know until you do it, but it needs to be done anyway. So it's kind of a moot point. They need to be replaced. But as far as, is it gonna add more revenue? I can't answer that question, and until they're in the ground. However, we have to alert and notify certain people that are their rent is based on utility based rent. And in other words, their rent will go up based on any changes in the cost of the rent or the utility. And if we do have a large increase, there's some notification that needs to be done. We've been in touch with, I think it's Fountainhead. I could be wrong. Is it Fountainhead that was the one, Laurel?
I think that one is associated with Potomac Terrace.
Oh, Potomac Terrace. I'm sorry. Yeah. So they sent us what needs to be their qualification as far as notifying, and they got to let the board know. And
Yes. Okay.
Chris,
but I don't think we have to do that with like Quality Inn. But I don't even have that one in the budget. So that's going to be for another time.
Go ahead.
Chris, is there any technology out now that will test the meters in place, the 3-inch meters and 4-inch meters?
That's it. I'll have to call up and talk to.
Some of them have test ports on them.
Yeah, they have test ports, but that's that it may very well be, and I'll find that out. I'll find that out because I remember somebody talking about that, and I can't imagine the new radio reads not being able to have that capability,
Okay, so I'll try to also find out about what do other utilities say. What does Shepherdstown do about testing large meters?
Yeah.
What is their plan? just, and do they contract that out? Do they do it themselves or what? I'll try to find that out in Charlestown. And that'll help guide us. Okay?
Okay.
Right, development of a standard operating procedure to handle zero usage meter readings. So I was happy to hear you say, Chris, that we want to definitely jump right on zero read meters. We want to replace any meter that's faulty. And the question is how to determine that it's faulty.
Well,
Because we
so-
have many, dwellings that are like vacation or second homes that are zero, right?
Yeah, do you want to, I mean, I'll go about real quick about how we do it now. So you can, you come across a meter, it reads zero, you do a work order to check out why it's zero, and this is on residential, obviously, but you crack the meter. If the meter moves, then it's working, and you look around the property a little bit, determine if indeed it looks vacant or it looks like people are out of town. You know, and anything that you can assess. You know, a lot of times you can see the buildup of newspapers on the door or even our old termination door hangers on the door. And that's a sure indicator that nobody's living there. So you know, you write that on the door, on the work order. Angie now has a spreadsheet, and she puts the zero usages in the spreadsheet. If they continue to be zero usages, and if it deemed okay, if we find that it's broken, we obviously replace it. Angie takes the remainder of the ones that are not fixed and puts them in a spreadsheet and says, okay, this place has been is vacant, yada yada. So we have a standing list of meters that are zero that we try to get information on to the best of our capability. If they are indeed working, if they're working, there's nothing we can do, you know. So
Right. Is this written down in an SOP?
yes, it is. And Angie has it in her SOP.
Can you forward this written SOP to the water?
I-
committee?
Yeah, I was hoping Angie could be there. I could look up. I could dig through Angie's file. I'll try to do that for you tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. I think I just think let's look at it and see whether just to look at it and oversee it. Okay. Good.
Okay. Yeah, and it can always be tweaked. I mean, she has a nice start. We had a discussion on SOPs with the mayor, and we looked at a couple of things. So the way we're doing our SOPs is we start out the SOP with a summary of what the actual
Okay.
SOPs for. So that's the first thing that you have. It's a little base summary, a little outline of what this the SOP. Then you have the steps of the SOP that you know to complete the task.
That sounds perfect.
You know,
Okay.
and then of course the table of contents
Okay.
is where we're at.
Okay. All right, any other question about zero read meters? Developing reports that can be run from Chrissy to oversee the database. I did talk to Chrissy a little bit about what they had already.
It's getting dark. I just noticed I'm in the dark.
It's 8:35. I don't think it's dark out yet.
Let there be light.
Okay. All right, so I'll just mention them briefly. Okay, in Kuzi, you can provide a list of the top users in the customer database that would, if you tell it, like, I want to know who are the top users from January 21 to December 21. It's going to add up the usage for each customer
Nice.
for those 12 months and pick out the top sum. And if you tell it you want the top 50, it's going to give you the list of the top 50. So you can do that. You can also, for a customer, for any customer, you can look at a graph of their usage over a date range. So you could put in, say, the last 20 years, say some big customer, say a hotel, and you could look at their usage over the last 20 years to see what it did. That is the graphing option they have. The other thing is you can get a report on adjustments. So the water clerk has to make adjustments to people's bills on occasion, like for instance, when there's a leak adjustment, there's an amount that gets added to the bill. I mean, basically, the number that's there is a negative number because that's how much is owed, but you add some so they don't owe as much when they're granted a leak adjustment. So we are going to have a new admin person, and that admin probably should look at a weekly list of adjustments and just keep abreast of them. Just because we don't really have any error checking going on. And everybody needs error checking, no matter. I wish the Kuzi itself did more error checking, but it really doesn't. It's not really a smart database that way. It just doesn't do too much of that. So that's just an idea. And then meters used at each location. It will produce a meter list ordered by meter size. And Chris, do you think that if each location is checked, there was a time once you said that some meters may not be listed correctly in the database.
Yeah, we went over all that, but I still say that whole list, I need time to sit down and go over the whole thing with Angie, because I don't think that we're completely on the same page. Because Kuzi is its own little creature in a way. I'm sorry. I found that it will say 3-inch meter in one screen, and then you go to the other screen and it says 2-inch meter, and I don't understand that, why it does that.
Well,
So
if you know what location that's for, that you see that.
yeah, this was a while back when I was actually in the office working with Kuzi.
Oh, exactly. You can ask Angie to check that out, because she can call and find out why does Kuzi do that.
Yeah, well, that would require me to get into Kuzi myself, and I have a password and everything, and go in there.
She can call Kuzi and ask them, and they can look at the record together.
Yeah, but I don't remember which ones these are. I'm gonna have to.
No, that's okay. I mean, if it comes up again.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to work with Angie on, and now it looks like I'll have more time. to do this in the future. So
I know.
it'd be a nice little project. And one I'm not really looking forward to.
Well, one of the things we can do
We
is
did clean it up some.
tell me what you think about this idea, Chris, is that we can get it to produce a meter list. We could, especially for all the meters bigger than 3/4.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. It will reproduce a list.
Let me finish the whole thing. Basically, to check each meter and each location with the eyes on it. Yes, there is a 3-inch meter there.
Done that.
And compare that to the actual list that came out of SCUSY to make sure that we have the right size, because that is how we bill. It's billed by the size.
Yeah. We had the guys go out, take pictures of everything, documented, made work orders, checked it. As far as we're concerned, it's fixed. I just don't think, I think there's still bugs in there. And it's something that's gonna require me to go in there with Angie and figure out what's going on, and then we can take it to Kuzi.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on is the best way I can say, but there's something not right.
And the last thing is just to make sure that each customer is receiving a bill. There is a field for active and inactive in Kuzi. And so when someone terminates their water, it becomes inactive. And just to make sure that all of the inactives are really inactive and that there's nobody living there. Do you understand? Is there a checking that goes on for those inactive meters?
Yeah, we do all the time. I was out reading meters today myself. And you look at the house and you check that the meter's still reading 0. It's still inactive. The one nice thing about reading with the books as opposed to the handheld, you didn't know what was active or inactive. I mean, it gave you a screen, but it didn't. If you entered in a number, the screen would disappear. And you'd have to go, and you couldn't get it back. With the books, you can flip through or flip back and see what's inactive and see that you're actually at the right location, because the addresses don't match up to the houses sometimes either. So it's nice to be able to get a before meter and after meter to make sure that you're at the right location. And this is indeed the inactive account that you're looking at.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I want to say about that. All right. And I already talked about the meter list. So now we're on the upgrade to our waterworks distribution system and the table that was sent out, the colorful table that was sent out. That was an attachment. Oh, nice, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do I get one?
It's in your email.
Oh, yay.
So, as we have gone through the process of trying to obtain funding for the water distribution system, we've learned a lot about how various entities around us work and how money gets from one place to another, coming from our federal government account through the state, and how we get access to it. And this was a complete learning process for me. I've been in this job for well, I guess it's like 20 years now. And,
Did you send it today?
yes,
Okay.
No, I think we sent it a few days ago.
I sent it today with the Zoom invitation.
Oh, okay. So look for the Zoom, Chris.
Oh, Zoom, the Zoom invite.
Yes.
So, this is a kind of, I'm gonna give you an overview of sort of how the money flows and then, and how we're able to get access to it, and then kind of exactly what we're doing to go through the process. So if we start with the first page, it has the green oval up towards the upper left, that's the federal government. And we've heard all about the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan Act that has to do with money related to the COVID pandemic. And if you move down to the left-hand side of your sheet, the ARPA grant money that came from the federal government was distributed directly to state level, to the county level, and to our municipality. And if you just jump down to the blue bubble there for Harper's Ferry, the money that we got from that grant money, we are using in the green box at the bottom for our Elsinore main replacement. So we're directly using that for infrastructure. That was one of the mandates of that money. And we are using it for that purpose. We also applied to Jefferson County, who received a lot more money than we did because that distribution was based on the population. We applied to them and asked them to consider our infrastructure project as a place where they might be able to direct some of their funds from the same program to assist us with financing that distribution system project. That kind of takes care of that section of the paper for right now. Going back up to the top, if we go to the right-hand side of the page, the ARPA grant money that the federal government then made available for infrastructure projects through government agencies is the second half of what we're looking at. So they made that law and they said, okay, we're going to really work on our infrastructure now. And what they do is they say, we're going to distribute this money to various agencies like the FCC, for the broadband type programs that we've been hearing about, to USDA, to the EPA. There's a lot of different agencies that they are dispersing money to. They say to those agencies, now you all come up with programs under which someone can apply for money, and if they qualify, then you can grant them that money and you can manage that money that way. So the EPA, not the USDA. The USDA is where we got our money for the water treatment plant. But in this particular case, the EPA has the drinking water funding programs available to them. Okay, so now what happened with that is that if we go back down to our blue bubble, we learned about the fact that that EPA money was coming available through what are called congressionally directed spending applications, or the old term for that would be earmarking. So your senators and your House of Representatives, people in the United States Congress, they have all agreed that they are willing to work with these congressionally directed spending budgeting items as they go ahead and pass legislation. That's not always the case, but it is the case now in our current Congress. So we applied to Senator Capito's through her congressionally directed spending portal for a grant under the EPA for our distribution system upgrade system. And we are awaiting knowledge about if that is going to be available to us. And I did have a conversation with someone at Senate level today, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll know whether we're getting a better spot for that. Also, there's some talk that maybe Senator Manchin, Senator Capito might swap or share, but in any event, we've gotten some good indications that this is a favorable thing for us. We're very hopeful. There's a 20% matching grant with that. So that's a $9.6 million project. So we have to match 20%, which is no small change. Mm-hmm. So another program came through the yellow bubble of the ARPA money that the infrastructure program that came from the federal government. They also sent money to the state level, and they said, you can, through your various agencies that you have, come up with programs to provide funding to municipalities and organizations across the state that qualify for the use of this legislation for all that money. And one of the agencies that the state has to do that is the Water Development Authority. And they developed a program that this is the only time, apparently in the history of forever, that entities will be able to use federally granted matching grant money to federal programs. This is like never heard of before, special little caveat in the law that allows us to go to the WDA, ask for grant money to be the matching grant fund to the grant that we asked for from Congress. So we are in the process of doing both of those things right now. So more tactically on page 2, how do we get there? We do still have to like justify our finances and all that kind of stuff. And even though this whole half of the project went through this process I'm going to talk about right now, when the other half of the project, the water treatment plant, was approved, because it was all one bucket, because the distribution system wasn't awarded at that time, we do still need to go through that a little check and balance with the various agencies. So let's start with the yellow block in the middle, Regional Planning and Development Council for the Eastern Panhandle, Region 9. There's 11 regions in the state of West Virginia, and we are in Region 9, handles our county, and I think Hampshire County, and just a couple other ones right there. And the responsibility, the role of Region 9 is to be understanding the needs of the community around them, what kind of projects are they and help that they need for their infrastructure and other programs, and to be looking out for funding opportunities that could possibly facilitate fulfilling those needs and help the various agencies that need the money find the ways to get them and tactically apply. And they, even after the project has been approved, they are also then active in the implementation of the actual project. So for instance, with our water treatment plant, when I get the pay applications from the contractors each month to take a draw on the USDA loan they have, I send that to Region 9. Region 9 does their work, checking against all the paperwork. They develop the resolution that comes back to us in the town council, which gets approved to disperse that money. And then it goes over to the USDA, and the USDA sends the money down. So they're always involved in the whole process. And they helped us when we made our application to Congress, and they're helping us now with this application to the WDA. Let's see, let's move.
That's why there's a meeting tomorrow at 1:30.
Yes.
Region 9. That's
Right.
all going to get discussed, and you can also come to that. That's right here.
It's going to tell us where we are on this chart. Hopefully, yeah. So let me just take a small break from the arrows, go back up to the top of the purple box, the WDA Water Development Authority. They are an actual funding source, but they also oversee what's called the IJDC, which is your green oval in the middle, and that is the Infrastructure Job Development Council. And that entity, the IJDC, is the one who evaluates the applications, our plans that we want to put into place to build whatever it is that we might want to build. They're looking at it to see if it's feasible. Is it really going to do what they say that they, are they putting into small pipes to feed the people that they need to feed? They're looking at all of that from an engineering perspective, a cost perspective, and a financial perspective. And then once they make an assessment of that, then they determine of all the funding sources that they know about and have jurisdiction with, what's the best match of a qualifying plan to this particular project. Okay, so let's go back to the mechanics again of how that evaluation is done. The first thing that happens is when Region 9 sends an application to the IJDC and says there's an active project, such as our distribution system, the IJDC assigns a number and they send out a request to the engineer in the pink box on your left for a preliminary engineering report, which we call a PER. That's going to lay out all the mechanics of how it's to be accomplished, assign pricing to it. It's gonna tell you about labor implications, how many people they have now, how many people are gonna be need later, how many chemicals they have now, what that's costing, what is it gonna cost later. All of those things were laid out in the PER. That goes back to the IJDC, and it also goes over to your accounting firm. And the accounting firm is then required to use that PER to run what's called a Rule 42 evaluation. And that takes a look at our finances and our cash flow. And it says, okay, can these people afford to do this with the money that they have coming in now? Or are they going to need to ask their rate users for a rate increase? And if so, how much is that going to be? And then the IJDC makes a ruling on that. That all goes public through the PSC over on the right-hand side. So after that evaluation is all done, the IJDC sends it over to the PSC Commission, Public Service Commission. There's hearings and things like that, and if someone has some concern, that can all be brought up, or someone wants to contest that, you know, just I can do it for less money, so they don't need to do that, that can happen, they do that. And once that's all approved, then the PSC comes back to the IJDC, and the IJDC says, okay, we have various places where you can get this money, and we think the best option for you is whatever. And our hope is that they will say the Water Development Authority 20% matching grant, because that's what we're looking for. And that we will then have both pockets of money granted through the ARPA funds. So that's kind of the goal that we're trying to get at. And we should not require a pricing or rate increase because we're hoping this will be granted. And therefore, the IJDC has said you don't need to do a full-fledged Rule 42. You only need to provide a cash flow analysis. So that's good. That will save us money because we pay for those things up front, and when the funding comes in, then we get it all back. It's with construction costs. So anyway, this is just my attempt at the mayor's request to sort of explain how all these pieces work, because we've been fumbling trying to put it together. We think we understand it.
Right.
If anybody knows me, it might be going the wrong way, let you know. But it kind of is helpful to know when you hear all the acronyms, and there is a cheat sheet on the back of the glossary of acronyms. So, so you're welcome to.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing, Debbie.
And the preliminary report is being done by the same engineer that we've had in our project. And he is, since this distribution, this is actually part of the original project that did not get bid out, right? And so it's really the same project. And so all he really has to do is update it to today, because it was written years ago.
Current numbers, prices really, and then part of that project was Elks Run, so we'll extract that because we're doing that on our own. And that kind of thing. So, yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. It's a hundred.
Well, hopefully it's helpful. So, so,
It is for me.
yeah.
Okay, any questions for Deb?
All right.
Our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, August the 17th. That's the third Wednesday. Does anybody have any other comments for our meetings?
Good job.
Thanks for letting me call in, guys.
Oh, yeah, thanks, David, for coming in.
Checking in from Morgantown,
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, that's a ways.
in parts unknown.
Okay,
Is it hot there?
he said he's.
Nice beautiful day today.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second by Donnie. All in favor? All right, we're adjourned. 59 PM.